Mac, I was on the social media app X. Have you heard of it?
Oh, I have heard of this. Yeah.
And I saw someone posted a comical cartoon, a comic cartoon strip, if you will.
Sure.
The person who tweeted it out was Movies Are Therapy, at Movies Are Therapy. I don't know who the author of this is. Maybe they're a coward. They're hiding. I don't know.
Sure.
But it was a fella on a date, little heavy set, curly hair, mustache, and the guy says to the lady, "It's a podcast about me and my buddy discussing movies, but the catch is we also sort of joke around."
I'll tell you, whatever that podcast is, I'm in on it. I like it. Never heard of one like that.
I was going to say, it sounds terrible. It sounds horrible.
Usually they just talk about the movies without the joking, And then it's funny today we're talking about all sorts of joking.
I was going to say for us, it's me and an acquaintance. I wouldn't call us friends.
No, you don't want to go that far.
Who sort of joke around and sometimes talk about movies.
Yeah. That's maybe better.
One, goo, three, yeah! Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
I'm Goo.
And I'm Mac.
And we are the Mac and Goo program. We bring you uncontrollable laughter.
Yeah. Today it's just nothing but jokes.
Just
a real jokey McJokerton of a movie. We are talking Joker 2, Joker Folie and Deux. That's right. Joker, and I'm assuming French. Those are French words.
Yes.
Goo, the first Joker came out in the year 2019. And I would say that it was a smash success at the box office, right?
It was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time at the time.
Yep. And you liked it. Yep. I thought it was all right. But in general, pretty well received by both, more so the audience than the critics, but pretty well received overall.
But also, I liked it outside of the Batman stuff. I liked it as an Arthur Fleck, character study type of a thing where Joakin Phoenix is putting on a clinic acting-wise. It's a really well-shot movie. It's a pretty succinct story, and you get that amazing pop at the end.
Yeah, I really only didn't mind it because of Joakin Phoenix, but that's neither here nor there. I think even the people that may have loved that movie, I think a lot of us might agree, and this is backed up by what this movie might make this weekend. I don't think we needed a sequel from that movie. In fact, a lot of people that really enjoyed it said, I don't know if I'll ever watch that first movie again, never mind a sequel.
Does Todd Phillips look like someone who has a plan?
Good. Joker Folie and Deux is projected to open this weekend with 55 to 60 million domestically. 3 weeks ago, that original projection was over 70 million. And for some perspective, the first movie opened with almost 100 million, 96 million. So there's a good chance that this second movie makes half of what the first movie did on opening weekend.
Also,
usually,
yes,
that's flipped.
Also, the original forecast for this movie, when they first forecasted it, it was at $100 to $110 million.
Because you would think it would beat the first one. And that's
right.
I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to get half of the first one.
Right. And I believe you and we made a bet. It was 500 million. I might lose that bet.
I think you're going to.
I think I'm going to lose that bet.
But this is extremely rare for a movie in this comic book-ish genre to have a follow-up to a pretty well-received first movie crumble as hard as this one's seemingly crumbling. I mean, to fuck up the idea, the marketing of this movie is just tremendous. It's tremendous that this might make 50 and the first one almost made 100.
I'll also say this is that, real people, not idiots like us. I'm seeing so many people have no idea that this is a musical.
Yeah, but it's like kind of a musical. It's
all right. Todd Phillips, calm down. Todd Phillips gave interviews. He's like, well, it's a musical, but it's not. We're only using music when we can't describe it with words. And it's like, that's what musicals do.
I would say for the common theater goer, they're gonna think this is very musical. I think for anyone that actually watches musicals, they'll be like, "Yeah, it's sort of a musical," you
So you're
know?
not appealing to either crowd.
100%. That's
You're
100%
really
right.
splitting the baby
Yeah,
in half
yeah.
and throwing the bathwater away.
And that's a common theme with everything they try to do in this movie. Goo, this is a rated R crime drama, musical, and thriller, and I would argue they didn't do any of those things well.
No, everything in it. No, I'll say this. Let's be kind at first.
Okay.
This is a very well shot movie. I think there's some really nice cinematography in this movie.
It is a well shot and well acted movie.
Well acted as well.
Mhm.
The two leads do a very good job doing what they're asked.
What they're asked. Yes.
But you can tell that there was never a sequel planned.
Mhm.
And then when they made, was it $1.5 billion?
Something like that.
And they had to make a sequel, they went into it being like, oh, wouldn't this be cool if we did this? And do you think at any point when they were making this movie, like say halfway through, they're like, uh-oh, this really isn't working, but we've already shot so much of the movie, we have to keep going with this musical thing?
I think that Todd Phillips opened up his fridge of concepts and just dumped everything onto the plate, onto the bowl, and tried to mix it together. And once it was like starting to seem kind of weird, they're like, "Oh, we'll go get Gaga because she's weird and she's multifaceted. She could do all sorts of stuff." And I think he thought Gaga could save this movie, or not even save it, because I think in his head
But if
he's
that's the
probably thinking
case,
successful. No,
then
and he's
give
thinking we need Gaga.
then do more Gaga. Make it a Gaga movie.
100%.
The
Yes.
first, you could have done this movie where you don't even see Arthur Fleck until the trial. Don't even show him in prison, just show Gaga leading up to there.
Yeah.
I'm
By the
being
way,
dead serious. That would have been
no,
better.
I know,
Also,
I know.
so I texted you about this, is that I thought that almost every musical number in this movie brought the entire thing to a screeching halt. But
Mm.
I also think that if you take the music out of it, this is one of the most boring, paint drying on the wall stories that it might have more momentum, but there's nothing interesting about it.
Yeah, severe pacing issue, that's for sure. And speaking of the pace and the runtime, 138 minutes, so 2 hours and 18 minutes. It felt like 3.
I checked my phone. First off, I was eating popcorn. I was having a fucking ball. I was
Sure
eating
were.
so much fucking popcorn.
Yeah.
And at one point I'm like, what? Where are we in the runtime? Because I feel like nothing has happened,
Uh-huh.
but also this has felt so long. And then I checked my phone. I'm like, there's another hour. How?
Yeah, when I realized there was an hour left, I'm like, "What? Is this gonna be an hour of a court case?" It was. It was.
I don't want to tip my hand here, but this might have been my least enjoyable movie experience, maybe since Hellboy. I had such a bad time.
So, I'm having a hard time. Yeah, I understand that. I I was, like, more annoyed and disappointed in this with this movie more than I was, like, mad as I get at other
Yeah.
movies, because I knew going in I probably wasn't gonna like it, and that is huge. If you're coming off the first Joker loving it and expecting to love this, you are gonna be fucking pissed. You're gonna be mad. And I think if you go into this seeing it as like a big Gaga stan, you'll be like, "Oh, she was really good, but they didn't fucking use her enough." So you're probably gonna be mad also. Everyone like they just middled everything here on all sorts of concepts, and I don't I have a hard time figuring out an avenue for someone to like this movie.
I also want to say this, though, is that Joaquin Phoenix is such a good actor that, like, he does everything up there and you just kind of forget that he's in the movie. But he
Right.
does a fantastic job with what he's
That's an
being given.
unbelievable
Yeah.
job. Goo, no audience score revealed yet on Roddy T's. The critics are at 39%.
39%.
Through 123 reviews. For some context, the first one was 69%.
Nice.
From the critics, which admittedly isn't great, but for this movie and what you were expecting, I would say that was obviously a thumbs up. 89% from the audience. The audience loved that movie for the
Yeah.
most part.
It's a good movie.
On Metacritic, a 48 through 36 reviews.
What does that mean?
The first one had a 59.
Yeah.
So essentially the critics on the first one, I think, gave it a soft thumbs up. This
Blasted.
one's jumped down probably 2 tiers, and I wouldn't say a hard thumbs down,
Mhm.
and that is in large part because the 2 leads are really good, but I think the critics are gonna have a hard time trying to understand what this movie was trying to do. And not critics, everyone. Everyone's gonna
You know
have a
what's
hard
odd?
time figuring out what the goal of this movie
You know
was.
what was odd is after this movie ended, several strangers, I had never met these people, like, approached me and started talking to me about the movie, like, at different points too. It wasn't like a big crowd of people. Like, after the movie, someone came up to me and they're like, "Man, I really wish I saw that in IMAX." And I'm like, "Why? What
What
about
aspect
this?"
of that?
I
Yeah.
mean, maybe some of the musical numbers?
Was he whistling, snapping?
He was
There's a
snapping
joker in the deck.
and he was, swinging his stopwatch around. And then on the way out, I was walking with my wife, I'm talking with my wife, and someone just talked to us for, like, 15 minutes. I don't know
I
why. Is
thi
this
I think that probably just speaks to how fucking confused people are.
I guess that they had to talk to strangers about it?
Goose, speaking of the people that made this movie,
Yeah.
this is written by Scott Silver and Todd Phillips. Scott Silver, you would know from 2 of my favorite movies growing up here, 8 Mile and The Fighter. He also did The Finest Hours and was one of the writers on the first Joker. Todd Phillips, of course, known pretty well. If you don't know who Todd Phillips is, he was the writer and director on Road Trip Old School, Starsky and Hutch, one of Goo's favorites.
That's a good one.
A writer on Borat, actually.
Mm.
Made the movie School for Scoundrels. That was
You
certainly
love
a
that
movie.
one.
Due Date. He did Due Date, and then directed all 3 Hangover movies, but wrote the second and third ones, the noticeably worse ones. And of course, also got War Dogs in there, which
Oh.
I've heard people love that movie, and I've also heard people not like that movie, which I guess maybe speaks to what Todd Phillips does. And then, of course, the first Joker movie. I think if you could now look through Todd Phillips's catalog over the last 25 years, I think we can agree he should steer away from the drama
Oh,
genre.
I was gonna
It
say
feels,
steer away from sequels.
yeah, that as well.
I would say
I feel
sequels
like
more than anything else.
I feel like Joker was a shot in the dark. He happened to get it right, and I don't stick to your 2000s comedies that don't play anymore. I don't know if he knows how to do anything else.
It just seems like he stumbled upon 2 smash hits. The Hangover obviously was the fucking Belle de Ball for a very
School,
long
too.
time. Old school, yes, but The Hangover more than Old School.
Sure,
And then
but
Joker.
we would both go old school. Over
No, but I'm
Hangover.
saying money wise, and even
Okay.
culturally,
Yes,
the Hangover was the most dominant comedy
it's fair.
for a very long time. There was years after that where every comedy movie commercial would say the best movie since The Hangover. They still do that. But The Hangover 2, not great. Hangover 3, even worse.
Yep.
This reminds me of both The Hangover 2 and The Hangover 3, where The Hangover 2 is almost a carbon copy of the first one. This is kind of like that. But then also, hear me out. Because he gets back into like the wimpy Arthur stuff.
Mhm.
But The Hangover 3 it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is playing here.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. Joker 2 is much like The Hangover 2 and 3. So if you're
It's like if The Hangover 2 and 3 had a baby, it's Joker Folie à Deux.
Goose, synopsis of Joker Folie à Deux. Arthur Fleck is institutionalized at Arkham, awaiting trial for his crimes as Joker. While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that's always been inside him.
May I stop you there?
It's a terrible synopsis.
I hate that they used Arkham because that had 15 people there. Roughly.
They also called it Arkham State Hospital, which I didn't care for.
Yeah, and if you're gonna use Arkham, slip in some Easter eggs.
Yep, call it Asylum, make it less like low security than it was. A murderer shouldn't have that much free reign in a
Yeah.
prison. That was insane. Goo, this movie, of course, stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck. Lady Gaga here credited, and this pisses me off, Lee Quinzel. Not Harley Quinzel, Lee Quinzel.
Well, also, if you read any of the synopsises, it just says Lee.
Yep, and
Because
that's what
they
she
don't
goes by in the movie.
They don't want it to be a Joker Harley Quinn movie.
Let me ask you this once again, and this was my major point in the first one.
Yes.
Why are you dropping Batman Easter eggs in character names like Lee Quinzel and Harvey Dent, but you call your guy Arthur Fleck? Brendan Gleeson is in here as Jackie Sullivan, which He almost feels overcasted. You didn't need Brendan Gleeson in that
No.
role. He does a good job. Catherine Keener, almost the same thing, like almost doesn't get enough screen time as Marianne Stewart, that is Arthur's attorney. Zazie Beetz pops back up here briefly as Sophie Dumond. Steve Coogan as Patty Myers, and then they casted this young strapping lad, Harry Lottie, as Assistant DA Harvey Dent. And that's, I guess, all you would really need to know from the cast.
My first note here is, let's just say for this movie, they buttered me up.
Yeah, so I was unable to attend the official screening of this movie, which they only put on one day before it was releasing in theaters, which is always a tell the movie's not going to be that good. And what did they have to spruce up the crowd for the movie, Goo?
They gave me a free popcorn and a soda. So when I gave this 40 hot dogs, you know the reason why.
Me, personally, I ate lunch too close to the movie, so didn't have an appetite for popcorn. That pissed me off. I went in with a double sour attitude. I did get some Swedish fish for the first time in a while. I did enjoy those, but I wanted popcorn. I didn't have an appetite for it, though. Secondary.
Yes.
How was your stupid fucking burrito?
So I was sitting there like a pig in shit. One hand burrito, one hand popcorn.
Did you mix the two at all?
No. But that took up roughly 90 minutes of my runtime. So really helped me.
To summarize my thoughts on this movie, Goo, before you get to a couple more of your notes here, is why? What the fuck? Why make this movie? At a certain point,
money.
Yeah, but it's going to lose money. It's probably going to lose money.
No, but after the first one, this is worth the risk. Obviously. So you know what this feels like? This feels like this, like watching
Hangover
this movie.
2 and 3.
No, I've already made that one. I need to make some more things for clips. This feels like WB DC, like the Joker was in public domain, and just a random weirdo took the character and made this with with no oversight by its parent company.
Yes, yeah.
Isn't that what it felt like?
That you're not far off with that. That's the closest. That's the closest like justification for how this movie somehow got made. And some of that maybe is because Gunn has taken over DC and this was already in development. They're like, all right, whatever, do whatever.
It's also Elseworld too. It isn't a part of his main timeline.
Yeah,
but I could also, because Gunn is, he said this a couple times now, is that he wants his directors to be the creative forces behind their movies. So maybe he doesn't want to give too many notes on this stuff.
No, I think he doesn't give a fuck about this because the people know this has no connection to what he's doing.
But he also said The Flash was the best comic book movie ever made. Are we starting to get concerned?
Noticeably absent James Gunn's comments about this movie.
Also noticeably absent, there was no Flash in this movie.
Yeah, unfortunately.
What? Unless we just didn't see him.
Yeah.
Zip, zip,
You're
zap.
onto something there, Goo. You're onto something.
Zip, zap, badango.
Should we get to the nonagon, octagon?
Let me a couple quick things first. Number one, you like music, right?
I would consider myself a fan of music. Yeah.
I thought you were saying, I'm not sure anymore.
I gotta say too, one of the subgenres at IMDb for this movie was jukebox musical.
Musical.
Unless you got the jukebox out of 1967, this is not a jukebox.
That's where all jukeboxes are from. We found a jukebox and we played the music from the jukebox.
This had what? Maybe one song you would know that they sung in this fucking movie?
Come on, get happy.
Yeah.
There was that.
If I had to hear any character sing The Saints Are Marching In Again,
oh my God.
I was going to lose my fucking mind.
I do like how after the movie, I saw it with my wife and I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, I like the old songs. I'm like, all right.
So again, if you haven't listened to that companion Gaga album, it has that old timey feel to it. It feels more like the stuff she did with Tony Bennett than her other stuff, and I don't particularly
cheek to cheek.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, I don't want to come across in this podcast as a poopy pants fanboy. I don't want to do that.
No, I don't think you run the risk of that.
I am though.
No. First movie that's on the table. I don't think that's on the table for this one.
Because even THR in one of their write-ups is like, this movie's not made for the fanboys. I agree. But my question now is, who was it made for?
Yeah, right. Answer me that. Riddle me that, THR, you fuck sticks.
And then that's all I got for notes. But this movie is fucking boring. That's my note.
My 3-word review on
Yeah.
X.com was boring, pointless, and waste. And I think that also accurately sums up what we saw.
Also, is this a spoiler? The least sexiest sex scene of all time.
Most relatable, though. I was trying to count. I think it was like 11 pumps. 11 pumps, and he was done.
The same as Max iced coffee.
Oh, come on. I drink it up nearly black. God damn it.
Want to get into the nonagon?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Fun factor. There was one scene that I think I loved in this movie, which showed potential for what this entire movie could have been.
Yep.
It's a courtroom scene where the Joker puts on this persona, this like arrogant, over the top, Looney Tunes like persona. And I'm like, if you had this the entire movie based off of the events of the first one, and this is what he has evolved into, that's what the character is. This is fun. And this would have been something.
I remember laughing once. I don't remember what I laughed at. Legitimate laugh. I got one laugh, not a hearty laugh, but a nice little lull. I think they were going for some fun factor with the cartoon at the beginning.
I hated it.
It didn't work.
No.
It did not work for me. I don't like that's the type of shit. So if you were going to use like if they had spotted that cartoon throughout to sort of give you a look into
so if they
Arthur's
did that,
head,
so
that would have worked.
If they had done that, so if they had mixed up the music and that,
yeah.
After you see that Arthur is in a music class and they're constantly watching Looney Tunes, Pepe Le Pew, I think I might have liked that a little bit more.
It would have been some Black Noir vibes. It could have worked. They just didn't do that.
Borometer, this is a very generic prison movie and then a very generic courtroom movie.
I think the full final 90 minutes are incredibly boring. I kind of like.
Are you saying the first 2 hours are not boring?
No. First of all,
how long is this movie?
I don't know if you know how to do math. I think
the first like a lifetime watching.
I think the first 40 minutes you're okay with the playfulness, the tit for tat with Gaga and Arthur, and then once you get like in the second act and beyond, it's all downhill.
Halloween. Will this movie wane over time? And I'm trying to think if, because of how oddball it is with its scattershot musical numbers, and like some of the musical numbers are pretty good in this. I will say this. There is one with Gaga. Is it the Mountain Song? Where she's really letting the piano
you can tell she's genuinely singing live during the filming on some scenes, which is impressive. It didn't help the movie.
Right. I'm just trying to think, is this a memorable movie?
Not for I. I'll tell you, I haven't rewatched the first one. And if there was any way for me to describe watching a movie less than I did the first one, it would be this movie. I'm going to try to watch this less than I watched the first one.
Satisfactor. How satisfactory was this movie? And the question that I have, does this add to the first movie?
I don't know where, other than like Gaga acting well, I don't know what you would say it possibly added at all.
Like it didn't even really develop Arthur any further.
No, it
regressed him for a while.
It muddied his character up too much because you're sort of like, you're wanting to play him as a sympathetic character, being that he's the titular character, and this made it too muddied. I felt like, to me, this was, Joker in the deck. This is turd the toilet for me. This sinks.
Joker in the
this
deck
sinks.
Of my cards. Halloween. We just did that one. Aquator World. There we go. Is this movie better or worse than the 1995 classic Waterworld? It sinks.
Yep, sure does. It sure fucking does.
So when it does that, Mac, my next question is Does this reach the depths of Hellboy?
No, because the acting is legitimately good in this. The acting is atrocious in Hellboy.
Hellboy also looks like vomit
Yeah,
and
agreed.
looks like diarrhea.
Yeah.
I will say once again, I don't like the story in this.
Mhm.
It looks good.
At times.
Plemonade, Mac. When life gives you plemons, you make plemonade. And may I ask you, because I have two people in mind
Mhm.
that might have made plemonade, who do you believe makes plemonade?
I had a hard time coming up with anyone, honestly. Your two candidates here, Zazie Beetz and Lee Gill, the little gentleman who plays Gary Puddles. I did laugh at Gary Puddles. So that was two laughs.
Yeah.
They gave legitimately great scenes in their 2 or 3 minutes they were
Yeah.
on the screen. So I guess you could argue them. This movie is so heavy on Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix that it's like hard to pick out lemonade moments.
Because I would go, I think Zazie Beetz, because I think her giving the testimony, I thought her performance there was great. I think the Lee Gill scene is my favorite scene, though.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job at seeming or looking like helpless and scared. He did a great job in that scene for sure.
This isn't you. I could.
He had a great line at the end where he was like, "You're the only one that didn't make fun of me," and it actually broke Joker's character.
Mm-hmm. Max Credit Union. I have nothing to give to anybody because I'm not Mac. But Mac, who are you giving credit to?
It's got to go to Lady Gaga. I mean, obviously, Joaquin Phoenix got all his flowers from the first one, and he's very good in this. Maybe not as good as he was in the first one because it was so unexpected in the first one, so it takes a little bit of the shine off. Gaga is awesome in this. She's tremendous. Every time we see her, she's awesome. She's so talented. It's just incredible to me that he is nearly every bit as good as he was in the first, and she's pretty amazing in this, and this movie still sucks.
Pants Tent City. Excite Bike Mania. Did anything get you going besides the sex scene?
Nothing. Not one single scene. Nothing.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo Party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. And Mac, before we give our hot dog scores, I see that you have notes.
Yeah, the first one, which again came out in 2019, Goo and I reviewed. Goo gave it 33 hot dogs. He praised Joaquin Phoenix and the pace of that movie. And I think you were arguing it could maybe even go up if you were more okay, if you talked yourself into more of the comic book stuff. I gave it 30, and I basically said that it was right at the equator if it wasn't for Joaquin. Joaquin probably gave it a good 5 or 6 dogs. He really saved that movie. I think in retrospect, I'd probably have it down that 4 or 5 dogs that I credited to Joaquin. It's not a movie I'm ever going to watch again. I don't think it's a bad movie. I just get upset with it because it's like wasted potential and they dip their toes into DC stuff without actually giving it to. That's a whole thing. Go listen to that episode if you'd like.
I also think that the first movie is interesting. Like, there's
More
certain
interesting.
things that you're trying to pick up on. You actually care in the movie.
And to your point, better paced.
Yes.
There's more action going on. There's just more shit happening.
In this movie, I just found myself not caring about anything midway through.
It has a big
give
issue
a
with
shit.
that, for sure. And part of that is them muddying up Arthur Fleck's character, so you don't care really what happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as Gaga is, you don't really care what happens to her either.
Let's be positive at first, Mac.
Okay, sure.
The movie takes a big swing with its musical numbers, really putting it on these two characters to carry it. Give it credit there. It deserves credit for taking a swing. You're not always going to make contact, but you do. Got to get the bat off your shoulders.
Feels like a check swing, though, doesn't it?
Also, there are some lovely shots in this movie. The cinematography is great, and I really enjoyed some of the establishing visuals of the songs when you're going into the fantastical elements of his mind because in the movie, when they sing good, it's real. When they don't, I'm sorry. When they sing good, opposite of that, it's kind of obvious right off the bat. So not to spoil anything there. And I'm not saying here that Phoenix wasn't good in this movie. It's just that he played it as expected. He was great again, but I thought that Gaga was fantastic in this, and they didn't give her enough time. They didn't give her character enough time on the screen. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't have minded if most of the first half of the movie was her and how she, like, I'm not saying do Mad Love, but kind of do Mad Love. Like, tell us.
You could have very easily done something like Across the Spider-Verse does, where you open with a heavy Gwen thing. You could have opened with a heavy Lee Quinzel thing and established her better, other than her just being in a room singing a song.
Well, no, what I'm saying though is, like, show us why she is so obsessed with this guy.
I
Like,
guess so.
tell us what drove her to being
Mhm.
here. Like, what attracted her to this person, to this
Yeah.
idea of what this person was, but they didn't really do that. My biggest note here, Mac, is
Mhm.
that if I wanted to see a man eat an orange, I'd have taken the orange eating class.
Sure. Chocolate orange?
Not just a regular orange.
All right.
Just eat the damn orange. I am here for a Joker movie.
Yeah.
Give me Joker stuff. And not to compare certain things, but right now, there is a fantastic television show on called Penguin.
Mm.
It's real, it's gritty, but they're keeping to what the character actually is.
Yeah, yeah, I'll let you finish. I got a whole thing. I got a whole spiel, Goo. Yeah, that is maybe the downfall of this whole Joker.
Because once again, I don't want to be a poopy pants fanboy.
Sure.
But, like, the thing is called Joker. Make him the Joker. And once again, in one scene, we have a confident, swagged out Arthur who really gets in the Joker mindset. Give me more of that. I was hoping at that point he would just transform into the Joker, and then we at least have from there on out, but we don't. We have a sweet scene where he's a cartoon just doing these weird voices and weird actions and weird over exaggerations, and that's what the Joker is, and they didn't even want to bother doing that. There's also a second good court scene too with Zazie Beetz. I did enjoy that as well. I wouldn't be against in this movie if there were 1 to 2 big show-stopping musical numbers. But to have 15 songs in there where most of them feel like they're just stopping the movie dead in their tracks, like, the pacing in this just sucked. It was so bad, but if you had 1 or 2, that could have been really effective. The movie also is pretty much 2 locations. That's it. That's all they had. They spent all their money on the music, and they're like, fuck, we have the prison and the courthouse. That's it.
We had to buy the rights to this 1964 song.
Arkham sucks in this. Pretty much anything Batman-wise sucks in this. It's super generic. It's small. There's no one in there. There's like this 10... It's like Tim Burton's Gotham and Batman Returns. 15 people live there.
Yeah, I actually made a mental note. In that prison, which seems like a rather large facility, they just have the same 4 guards working around the clock.
24/7. 365.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it feels like an IP that has hit public domain and someone just said, fuck it, I'm making a Joker movie and you can't stop me.
That's a good summation of what this movie is.
I'm below 20 hot dogs. I think Gaga did a good job. I think Phoenix did a good job. And I like swings, but this is so boring. I got no enjoyment out of it. I hated my theater experience, and I was given free popcorn. 15?
Oh, love that. Love that for Goo. And I like it because, so what was your expectation? Did you think this was going to be good when you sat down in your chair the other day?
No. But also during the movie, like I said, when he hits that point of being Joker, and I saw what could have been.
Yeah, it makes you more upset.
I was like, well, we could have gotten more of this, or we could have gotten a little backstory to Lee, without it just being spoken about off screen. Like, this sucked.
Lee Harvey Quinzel. Goo, I piggybacking, off of what you said there. I don't know what would possess the makers of this movie to think that this is what anyone wanted at all. Like, they outright refused to commit to anything in this movie. They just dabbled in a bunch of things and a bunch of themes and a bunch of characters and a bunch of Batman light stuff. and ended up doing none of it justice. To your point, just sort of bothered you that it was even in there. And that was true about the first one as well, but it's an even larger problem in here, especially as a sequel. Just feels half-assed, no real plan going in. Let's throw everything out there and just see how it mixes up. The pacing of this movie is horrendous. It has this odd chapter-like feel that, like, Wes Anderson movies have this, but he can sometimes make that work. This movie feels like half a season of a television show, but like in the middle seasons where they're like, you're really far away from something good that's going to happen. It wasn't good. And I felt like one of the best aspects of the first movie is that you never truly knew what was real or what was a fever dream. And this movie has absolutely none of that. None of it at all. There's no mystery to it.
It's like getting an Inception 2, where they tell you that the top fell down. Because the final 7 to 10 minutes of the first Joker movie, you're trying to figure out, is this a dream?
Right. What is real here? And that
and
leads
they pretty
you...
much, and they give it to you.
I know, it's dumb. And the whole thing, especially coming off the first one, is that Arthur Fleck is an unreliable narrator, and we're seeing the story through his POV, and that is at least something. It's more interesting. This movie is like third person, fly on the wall, and you knew what was real and what wasn't instantly. There was no intrigue at all whatsoever. And to the point I was making earlier, like it almost like he almost commits a character assassination here. And this is a bit of a spoiler. We'll talk about it in a couple minutes. His closing argument in that court case, like, undid everything that the character built through 2 movies. I thought that was fucking dumb.
But then it set the world on fire.
The ending of this movie is fucking bullshit. Not only with the Arthur stuff, but the tease we may or may not get. And that leads me again to this larger point that I made in the first episode about the first movie. Everything and anything attached to the comics in Batman only hurts this franchise because they can't do it the way they want to, or won't do it the way that it should be done. They just allude to it. They tease stuff because it's not really a comic movie. It's adjacent, and it just fails both audiences, in my opinion. Now to the acting, to some good things. The leads were tremendous. Lady Gaga was unbelievable. Joakin Phoenix was unbelievable. But again, that almost makes me more upset. It feels wasted. I cannot recall a movie that wasted as good of a performances from its 2 leads, not just one, as this movie does. It's fascinating that they could be this good and the movie can be this bad. As much as I didn't care for the first movie, I think it just garners too much praise. I do forgive those that really like that movie because Joaquin Phoenix is very, very good. This movie, however, I wish didn't exist. All the potential that we saw, and again, we didn't want it, but then when they casted Gaga as the co-lead, all that potential that went running through our heads, all the possibilities, we were like, ooh, but it ended up just being a 2-year-long cock tease.
That is a quote for the fucking DVD cover. This movie, I wish didn't exist.
We just have complete blue balls from all the promise. The acting just couldn't save it. I have it at 18 hot dogs goo. It's in the conversation for worst movie of the year. That's not named Madam Web. I think the only movies I have underneath it besides Web are Roadhouse and The Beekeeper. So this is conversation for one of the worst movies of the year. And I can only imagine because I think I'm not going to say, I don't want to use the word offended, but like to have performances this good and the movie be so underwhelming and just like, I guess I'm mad about it. So much wasted time and effort in potential, and it just went for nothing, absolutely nothing. So I think people will be talking about this movie for a long time about wasted potential. That's for sure.
I mean, all that I can think of now is after you've given me your whole spiel, and we've talked about this now for 40 minutes, is that we shouldn't have seen Joaquin Phoenix the first hour and a half of this movie.
It's not a bad way to play
The first 90 minutes doesn't add anything to his character. He doesn't give us anything new, or they don't give us anything new with this character acting-wise, personality-wise. He regresses a little bit. So like the point of, I wish we just got all Gaga. We don't see him in the asylum at all. And the first time that we see him is in the courthouse.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the spoilers so we can talk about some of the few spoilers in this movie.
Spoilers,
Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers,
spoilers,
spoilers,
spoilers,
spoilers. So
spoilers.
to that point, Goo, I really, really liked. This is the thing I liked most about the movie. Maybe the only thing I liked about this movie is that they flipped the script between Lee and Arthur.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn's the manipulative one that is being chased around by Joker instead of vice versa. And I really like the idea of that, not in this universe, but in a future universe with the same two characters. Like legit, no exaggeration. That might be the only thing I liked about this movie, other than the acting, of course.
I did like the reveal that her background is pretty much the background of the character.
Right, but I like that she's stringing him
Right,
along,
but what I'm saying though
and
is like
she's not this mad love. He is. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's a nice dynamic that could play out in a better situation. So I really, really like that. However, the final 20 minutes of this movie it ruins almost both characters that they had set up the whole movie. Her like getting up and just leaving because he ruined this mystique
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense because she's faking it.
I know, but
She's
so let
faking
me
all of that.
okay, but it's also different than say a Mad Love where she's a perfectly competent, she's a psychologist where like
Yeah.
she just she gets swooned by him. She gets
Yeah.
in this he I don't know how to say it, but like
He gets swooned by her.
no, but he's also not really capable of certain things in life
Sure.
and it's him really, reaching up.
It's predatory is what it is.
It is. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit different.
It is a little different. That's for sure. So not only like the whole her getting up and leaving after his closing argument, but the closing argument is a thing I think that really like unravels whatever this movie may have been trying to tie up at the end here. I felt like it made absolutely no sense for them to go that route, for him to just reveal that he's like, I I don't know. I like, to me, even though the joke, and again, I'm comparing it to the iterations of the Joker that I know, like that mask exists, and sometimes it does break, and he does break down and is somewhat of a real person. But for him to just outright throw the Joker moniker away, to me, made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Because he's only Joker. He's not the Joker.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that, Goo?
Yeah, he's going to see someone that's visiting him in prison, or that's probably set up as well by the cops
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
prisoner.
I
But
did think it might be Harvey for a second.
yeah, but he's stabbed to death by shanked to death by a fellow who could not stop laughing and then cut a little smile into his mouth.
So you're telling me, Todd Phillips and the people that made this movie, not only do you not want to do the Joker origin with your first Joker, you want to introduce a second Joker that also isn't tied to Batman and double the fuckery. You want us to be double as upset with the way you're doing
Well,
this?
he does age-wise match up more with Batman, the second guy.
Get the fuck out of here.
So I'm back in.
Bruce is like 8 in the first one. This guy's like 28.
So what I hate about it is that the second Joker is just like, I'm pissed at the guy that I followed and I liked his ideas. He stabbed me in the back, so I'm going to stab him in the front.
He didn't do it that good.
So
I didn't like the way he did it. So now I got to be Joker.
So it's like that AI art that I always saw where it was Heath Ledger's Joker sitting in a chair and then Joaquin Phoenix's Joker with his hand on his shoulder and says, "Go get him, brother." Finally, it's all come back around.
I get why someone would want to shank Arthur Fleck. I don't know why someone would then want to carve their face, other than you're being like, this is the real Joker, you fucking idiots.
And this gets back into, and I'm pretty sure I said this in the other Joker movie discussion, is much like Michael Myers, I don't need a Joker backstory. I just need him to show up and cause chaos.
Sure. That would work better than either of these two origins we got.
Like, I don't need to know in Rob Zombie's Halloween movie that Michael was bullied and tortured animals. Just make him the boogeyman.
The final, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes of this movie, we see a car bombing of the courthouse.
That I thought was Harley Quinn. I thought Harley Quinn did it.
That would have made more sense. I felt like that was so out of place since it was just a couple dudes. And then all that really was for them, all that really ended up being was for them to get the final scene on the stairs. That felt like such a waste too. Like, the the movie just gets worse
Yeah.
each minute that passes, and it's by the end of it, you're just impressed at how they did nothing in the full
Also,
2
I
hours and
could
18
not
minutes.
believe that with that explosion, you see Harvey Dent, and he's not even Two-Face. There was an
Just a couple
explosion.
bloods.
That's why everyone calls him Three Cut. You know what it
He just had
reminded
some
me of?
a couple shards of glass. No, not even glass. I don't even think there's windows
You
there.
know what it reminded me of is in Hot Tub Time Machine, where they're waiting for
Right.
that guy's arm to fall off the entire movie.
And they purposefully shoot it, come out of this haze, and they just pan past him. So you're like, oh,
Is
he's
he
gonna have a
serious?
fucked up face.
No,
And then they finally focus on him. No, just a couple cuts.
couple
That's it.
cuts. A
That's
kitty
it.
scratch. A cat walked by and gave it meow.
Meow.
That's all we had.
This movie stinks.
Yeah. Did you like this? This is definitely an Easter egg. He
Yeah?
meets Lady Gaga in the B ward. Is
Oh,
that an
right.
Easter egg for Burt Ward?
It may be. It's gotta be, right? I don't know.
There's no other example or
See that
explanation
Easter
for
egg?
this. Yeah. It's a nod to the first Robin, live action Robin.
Oh man. I gotta say you weren't that negative leading up to this, so it makes me pretty happy that you really did not like this movie.
I don't want to text too much negativity because also I didn't want to warp your fragile mind
No,
before going
I
into your
mean
viewing.
I mean like over the last 2 months when I've been shitting on this movie, you stayed mostly silent about it.
I wasn't expecting such a boring movie.
Right. And that's where like it's a hard time comparing a bad movie like this that does nothing to a bad movie like Madam Web that does nothing but in like a fantastical way.
I
Like
love
this
Madam Web. Madam Web, I might like Madam Web more than Dune 2. If I'm talking about my favorite movies from the year, I love Madam Web.
Oh god. I'm done talking about this movie.
Let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything, and with Joker, Folie, Deux, currently in theaters right now, I say we rank Jokers. The
Heyo.
7 theatrical Jokers that we have seen so far. I think the worst one, and they've all been good to a certain degree, extent, but
Let me chime in with my note before you get too wild there.
okay.
I think I would make the argument that only 2 of them have even been good. One, I know not a lot of people would agree with me, but the second one you have in your top 4 here, Barry Keoghan, who we saw
Hogan,
briefly
right? Is it
in
Keoghan or
the, in the
Hogan?
Batman. I did not like what we got out of him in the Batman, so he's more of a TBD, but he's definitely not good.
That's why I have middle of the pack. He's not at the top.
Well, I would say you. So, all right, just go.
I'm also curious with him. Did he just get into a terrible car accident, and that's the reason why he can't talk very well, and his face is stapled up?
That's an argument. If he looks more like Two-Face than Two-Face does in this movie.
So at number 7 is Jared Leto, who I believe Honest Trailer referred to as a mix of Nicolas Cage and a cat.
So this one, he was not good. I did appreciate that they went for a different version.
Yes.
Because you have to remember this is the first one we saw post Ledger. So they couldn't do that. I give him credit for trying. It just didn't work.
The Joaquin Phoenix one, and I only have him so low here because I don't think he's really the character.
Bad at being Joker. Good performance. Bad at being Joker.
At number 5 is Cesar Romero, who was in Batman 66. He was in that one movie that was out for a very short amount of time. He had a very good laugh. He had fun with the character, and he painted his mustache white.
I can't, especially now as a mustached man, I can't not see the mustache every time I see him now. It's very distracting.
Well, he has it. At number 4, I have Barry Keoghan. Is it Kagan?
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know either.
He's stooping Sabrina Carpenter, so good for him.
I think he has potential, not because of what we saw in that scene, because
of Matt Reeves.
It's because of Matt Reeves.
Yeah,
that's really all it is. At number 3, I love Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Hate it.
I love it so much.
Hate it.
I am of a mind to make a movie.
Hate it.
That's one of my favorite lines from any movie ever, and it was not in the script. He just said it.
You say that, and you ever dance with the devil in the pale, whatever the fuck that line is. You say that often as well.
I do say that. I say a lot of his lines. I I love his performance and never rub
Ouch.
another man's rhubarb. Another line, not in the script. The
Ouch.
man can just fucking pull out these amazing pieces of dialogue out
Yeah,
of
sick
nowhere.
ad libs.
It's great. At number 2, and you could argue because I think this is the voice that you think of when you think of the Joker, and that is Mark Hamill's Joker, Mask of the Phantasm. He was in The Killing Joke that was in theaters for a very short amount of time. I actually don't like his voiceover work in that movie, but he's also in the Arkham video game series.
I am stunned you didn't have him number 1. Stunned.
So I think that Heath Ledger's Joker just has to be number 1. He is the only one of the bunch that is not only fantastic with the character, he is an all-time movie character.
I totally agree with you. And this is not to take away what Ledger did with the character, but when I think about the Joker, I think more of animated series Hamill
I do too.
than I do Ledger's Joker, as much as I appreciated that performance. Those are 1 and 2 either way, though.
Easily.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty certain that Nicholson, at least for me, is number 3.
I don't know. I might go Phoenix third just because I don't like any of the other ones. But in 2 years, we might be like, oh, Barry Keoghan is maybe 2. I don't know. He might be tremendous. They also might be saving him for the 3rd movie now, too.
Yeah. Give me your Mount Rushmore of laughs. Joker
From this
laughs.
movie?
Oh, Joker laughs.
Oh, okay.
Hamill's number 1.
Hamill's number 1 for sure.
It might be Cesar Romero number 2.
Yeah, you might, because Keegan's was too subdued.
Mm-hmm.
Ledger almost didn't do it enough.
But I also liked how Ledger did it, where it sounded like he was fake laughing at people.
Yeah, that's Phoenix's was decent.
But Phoenix was also a nervous tick. It wasn't that he just found things funny.
Arthur Fleck, it wasn't the Joker. Yeah. So I guess I would go. I guess I would go Ledger third. I do like Cesar Romero's.
I like Nicholson's too, but it wasn't like really super Joker.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go 4th. I don't even remember Jared Leto laughing at all in the movies.
Can you think of any other sweet themed Mount Rushmores that you want to do with these Jokers real quick?
Oh, best Joker getup.
Ooh, like outfit?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So the animated one is a classic, just big zoot suit look. I do like that. I'm going to go Ledger number 1 because he had all those secret pockets. I love the inside
Trinkets
lining.
everywhere.
He'd open his coat. He had like pulley strings. He had bombs everywhere.
Cheez-Its?
Yep, he had Cheez-Its. It's great. We haven't seen Kagan's. I've said his name different every single time. I don't mind Phoenix's actually. I like the off color of his suit.
It's solid, recognizable.
If you took the tattoos off of Leto, he doesn't look bad.
Yeah, I agree. It's his again is also a different character the way I guess Arthur Fleck is, but it's something.
So Hamill, Ledger, then I would say Phoenix and maybe Nicholson. Because I also like with Nicholson, he has that hat. Any other Joker Mount Rushmores you want to run by real quick? Gadgets, maybe?
No.
Final schemes?
No.
Poisoning water?
No, that wasn't a Joker scheme. I don't think.
No, that was the Scarecrow. I do like Nicholson's scheme of poisoning the makeup. That was a good one. That might be my favorite one, actually. That's a good one.
He also had the poisonous balloons.
He had the poisonous balloons. Poison. The man likes poison.
Big poison guy.
Although I do love with Ledger, all he had in his pocket was lint and knives. Fuck, man. Ledger's the best.
Ledger's pretty good.
Ledger's Jokers. That movie is fantastic. God damn it. This movie
It is a very good movie.
Joker Folie à Deux is terrible.
It is a very bad movie.
All right, Mac. Where can the people find us?
You can find us on X and Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. That is Mac & Goo, Mac Shift 7 Goo. On every other platform we are. Oh, wait. No, did I do it backwards?
I don't know what you said. I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know.
I was making an X with my arms.
Every other platform we are Mac. I don't know. We're on all the podcasts. I'm so
fucking
fucked up.
Google us, dude.
We're on Spotify. More importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe us 5 stars. If you do that, We'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. Watertown Sportswear is on
Mount Auburn Street.
I even forgot the number. 30, 40.
This is
I'm
our
fucked up today.
1300th episode. You have said
This is
this
what
in
this movie
every
did to me.
episode.
Yeah, 30 odd Mount Auburn Street, Watertown, Massachusetts. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com merch.
Merch,
Go
merch,
tell
merch,
Alexa
merch.
to play Mac and Goo Movie Club on the iHeartRadio app. Not an iHeart property, but it has now been said.
34 Mount Auburn
I
Street,
said
Watertown,
that.
Massachusetts.
It has now been said on one of the top-rated radio shows in Boston, the Toucher and Hardy show, where we had Fred Toucher on a couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now, actually. But
8.
very far. But he has mentioned several times, a handful of times, that he was on a podcast drafting It's Always Sunny. No, but that he doesn't know our names. And
yes, it's okay.
No, but what I love about it, though, is that he's not going to take the time just to look up the name and then have it in his back pocket eventually.
Oh, he wouldn't even know what to look up.
No, but I'm hoping that he never does, and no one ever tells him.
Okay, good enough.
Just so when he references it, just know it's us. It's us, guys.
Yeah, it's us.
What's our next movie? Is it Venom at midway through the month?
Oh, Venom comes out in a couple of weeks, right? Venom. Are they going to run that song back?
I certainly hope so.
You see Eminem's a granddad now, or going to be a granddad?
I did see that. You know what? I wish in Joker Folie Deux that Gaga sang the Venom song.
Venom.
Man. What a...
Yeah, I'm trying to look at. Yeah, I think Venom's. Wolves might be on an Apple TV.
It is.
So maybe we'll do that.
Yeah,
and then Venom.
But you're in charge next week, so whatever you want to do.
We might just take a week off.
We're not taking a week off.
It's a good chance we do.
We're not taking a week off. You find a friend.
I don't know if I will.
You phone a friend, find out the answer to your $1 million question, even though you know it. You're just telling your dad that I won $1 million.
Yeah.
And then do a fucking news dump on your own, dude.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
But nothing has happened over the last 3 days. It's
very true.
Perfect time for a news dump.
I'll talk about the song Venom.
I was gonna say, okay, so I'm gonna write out news dump for you right now. Open with the Venom song and then just do box office and then call it a day. Box office with Joker hitting $40 million.
I might scour the internets for someone that liked this movie and have them on.
If you go to Rotten Tomatoes, there are some, but all the positive reviews are still like, look, I guess I liked it. People are just confused. They don't even know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the audience score ends up like in the 50s, but that's still 40 points lower than the first one. So
it's just so funny that this movie was made to cater to critics and to a filmsy audience.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
They're fucking confused.
Yeah. All right, so check us out next week. Tuesdays are Goose Days. I abuse kangaroos.
Bye.
Tim Burton.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.